Hi, it's Omar here, CEO and co-founder of EnergiMine. We're an energy company based here in Oldham that specialises in artificial intelligence and blockchain. So just wanted to briefly talk to you about community-led energy schemes and the future of the market as we see it. We're in a bit of a unique position in that we're building a lot of the solutions I'll be talking about, so hopefully you'll find the next few minutes interesting, and apologies I couldn't be there. I will send my contact details around if anyone has got any questions after the brief talk. So I think the biggest thing with community energy and the future over the next few years is going to be this buzzword decentralization. And what I mean by that is that for years as an economy, we've had a very centralized system where we've had a small number of large power stations generating energy to millions of businesses and homes. And over the last 10 or 15 years globally, what we've started to see this decentralization in generation. What I mean by that is that people have started to generate their own energy at a local level. So increasingly, you're seeing solar panels, wind, and whatever else it may be, in aggregate replace large power stations. So brief background, which might give you a bit of context. So I've spent the last 13 or 14 years in the energy sector, having been a electricity trader in London, Hamburg, and Dublin. Working for large utilities, I've had a pretty good vantage point of how the industry's changed. And if I go back 10 or 15 years, we still were very much centralised. It was dominated by Big Six here in the UK, and there was no real difference between sort of generation and trading elements of those big utilities. That's changed over the years. So 5 or 6 years ago, I started my own energy trading company, which I then sold, and then started EnergiMine here in Oldham about 1 year ago. So, as I mentioned, EnergiMine specialises in artificial intelligence and blockchain. So we've just launched our own cryptocurrency called Energy Token, which was a token that incentivized energy-saving energy. We sold that to investors from around the world and raised $15 million in around 81 minutes. So team worked very hard to achieve that. And the token is a reward token that rewards energy-saving behaviour. And this sort of follows on nicely from what we're going to talk about on the community energy angle, because what we're seeing is almost a reverse of what we've seen previously. We're now going to be in an economy, that where people are going to be generating their own energy on a micro level. So the big change that I wanted to talk about here is peer-to-peer trading. So peer-to-peer energy trading is far more complicated than it sounds, but we believe it's the future of community energy schemes. So, we've already seen the emergence of community schemes led by local government, where there are efforts to build local solar arrays, wind turbines, and supply the local community, which makes sense for a number of reasons. Firstly, looking at the sort of distribution and transmission charges and having local generation, the savings that can offer. But more interesting for us is that we're seeing a real move away from there's a huge lack of trust in the market in big energy companies, much like there are in financial markets with banks. So the attraction of community energy schemes, where the communities are really incentivized to generate green energy and use that locally, is quite strong. And we're sort of suggesting that within the next 5 years, that's going to be taken a step further with peer-to-peer trading. So one of the things EnergiMine are building is a peer-to-peer trading exchange that will allow two residents or businesses trade energy with each other. So what I mean by that is, at the moment, if you're on two businesses on a business park, and one of them has a solar power and is exporting any excess power back, they're generally selling that energy, that electricity, back to an energy company, who will then put a margin on it and sell it back to their neighbour. So we're in this crazy situation where your neighbour could be generating excess energy, getting a worse price from it, and essentially having an energy company put a margin on it. What we're trying to build is a platform that allows those two businesses to trade directly with each other. So one of the things that we're creating is a marketplace for that, and we've already started the build, and testing will start in Q2 2018 this year, where we'll start to see the first transactions between residential setups in the shared buildings and in the commercial sector on business parks. So if you take that further, we feel in the next 5 years there's going to be a huge network effect. So as peer-to-peer trading sort of emerges and becomes stronger, and there are lots of hurdles to overcome, not least regulatory and legal, actually. So the regulator needs to decide whether peer-to-peer energy trading exchanges should be treated as a financial exchange, and whether they require a supply license. So there's lots of complicated questions there. But in essence, we feel that the future is very much one where, imagine you have a mixed-use development. So you've got an apartment block, offices, a commercial space, electric vehicle charging space downstairs. We see that development as almost one small network that will be self-sufficient with solar and a combination of energy storage, specifically batteries. So batteries are a big part of what we do, and so far to date, communities and businesses, they generally see batteries as replacing diesel generators, really, as a security of supply issue. So we want to move away from that and see batteries and energy storage more as a generative asset in terms of P&L, responsible for generating its own P&L. So in that example I gave you, the development would have solar panels, electric charging points, and also a battery. And the whole energy ecosystem within that development would all be run by an algorithm automatically. So the future is a sort of a reducing reliance on the big centralized energy suppliers. And if you take that a step further, one of the major projects that we're working on here is our smart cities or IoT strategy. So I'm sure most of you know, for those of you that don't know, Internet of Things refers to generally connected devices, devices all connected up to the internet, and the data that it can be exchanged is quite powerful. And I'll give you a very short example of how we see IoT developing in the energy markets from a residential and community perspective. So if you've got connected devices in your home, your microwave, your washing machine, your refrigerator are all connected, and imagine each one of those devices has a node in it. And a simple example would be, of course you want your refrigerator on 24 hours a day, running flat, but your washing, you have got very specific requirements. So you may want your washing done by 7 a.m. the next morning, but you're not really concerned whether the washing machine turns on at midnight or 2 a.m. So the idea is that an algorithm would work in the background while you're asleep and would communicate with those nodes in your devices and turn those devices on and off depending on what the energy markets were doing. So you'll be in a bit of a, I suppose, bizarre sounding situation where your refrigerator will be trading with your neighbour's washing machine. And if you scale that up to billions and billions of devices in an area, you can see why we need technology to be able to run that. And that's the technology that we're building right here at EnergiMine. So to wrap things up, we certainly believe within the next 5 years we'll see the emergence of peer-to-peer energy trading, and we'll see a number of platforms emerge as well as ours. There are other people trying to solve this problem, but certainly we think by 2022, 23, trading energy on a peer-to-peer basis will be quite normal, and we'll start to see at the back end of that sort of 3 to 5 year time horizon, we'll start to see the emergence of IoT networks where you've got connected devices also trading energy. I know the topic of the day is sort of community energy. So the one big thing that we are firm believers in is that we are going to see this huge move away from a centralized energy market to a decentralized energy market, which will become much more fragmented. And the only thing that will really pull these schemes together is central software platforms. So increasingly we'll have less and less reliance on traditional energy companies. That doesn't mean that the energy companies will go bust, will go bankrupt. It means that they'll change their model significantly and may change from being simply a an energy supply company to a company that allows peer-to-peer trading, for example. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry to be so brief, and I hope to meet some of you in the very near future, and thanks for listening.